Chapter 22 of Married Thrice to Salted Fish. When the two rushed to the Xingdan pavilion, there were already many people inside. However, they were all strangely quiet. Only the sound of a woman's mournful sobbing could be heard. Lin Qingyu pushed Lu Wancheng into the courtyard. A few people called out, "Young master, Shaojun." But after that, they once again grew silent out of fear. No matter what they thought in their hearts, the expressions on their faces were the same as those participating in a funeral procession. A woman with disheveled clothes and messy hair was pushed out of the inner room by two momos. Lin Qingyu recognized her as one of the women who played the pipa that afternoon. She casually held together her flimsy robe. A dark spot stained her undergarment. It was with its mandarin duck embroidery. It was obviously blood that had yet to dry. In the inner room, Lang Shi, Lu Nian Tao, and Dr. Zhang were gathered by the side of the bed. Lang Shi was losing her voice from crying. Seeing her tragic state, with tears and mucus flowing profusely, put Lin Qingyu in a very good mood. The comparatively smarter Lu Nian Tao managed to remain quite restrained. Eyes rimmed red. She simply wiped away the blood from the corner of her younger brother's mouth. "Shang Song, my son, Shang Song." Seeing this, Hualu couldn't help grumbling in her heart. In the past, whenever the young master was critically ill, the madam would also keep watch over his bed, crying in a way that made her the very picture of a weeping beauty, in full possession of etiquette. Who would have thought that she could cry and howl like this when it was her own son who was about to die? She could even go head to head with Sha Momo. Pan Shi was accompanying Nanan Hao in the outer room. In the end, it was his own son who'd suffered this incident, and on top of that, it was even something so disgraceful. Nanan Hao's expression was grave, and he appeared even more tired. His usual daring and energetic bearing could no longer be seen. Seeing the two of them come in, Pan Shi said, "Young master and Shaojun are here." Nanan Hao slowly raised his head. He saw his eldest son sitting in a wheelchair, dressed in bedclothes with a cloak over his shoulders. His heart became even more pained. He had but two sons. There was no telling until when the older one would live, and now could it be that the younger son would also be gone? Seeing that Nanan Hao said nothing, Pan Shi shook her head, motioning for them to stay in the side room so that they could talk. When there were only three of them, Lu Wancheng asked, already knowing the answer, "What's going on?" "Third brother and that woman who was pushed out just now." Pan Shi looked at Lin Qingyu, her expression revealing a bit of awe and reverence. The number of entertainers in Qingdai Pavilion was going to be cut by half. In order to stay in the mansion, these domestic prostitutes thought of all possible ways to curry favor. There was a singer who in the past would occasionally be allowed to Lu Shaosong to serve him between the sheets. Recently, Lu Shaosong had stopped calling for her. She thought that her master had grown tired of her and would want to drive her out of the mansion. In order to regain the master's favor, she had to take action. Men like novelty and freshness. She entrusted the money she had saved over the years to a young page to bring her from outside something to liven things up. This something was kind of incense. After being lit, the fragrance was sweet but not cloying. It smelled extremely pleasant. She didn't dare use too much of it. She simply smoked her clothes with the incense before going to wait upon Lu Chia Song. Sure enough, Lu Chia Song had been attracted by the scent on her body and carried her atop the table right on the spot. After that, Lu Chia Song doted upon her once again. She had hopes of giving birth to Lu Chia Song's children, preferably more sons than daughters, allowing her to stay in the mansion as a concubine in the future. But Lu Xiaosong had just been reprimanded by Nanan Hao, and fear still lingered in his heart. He also had misgivings about his health and didn't dare to be as unrestrained as he was in the past. Today, he and his poet friends gathered together. Maybe because they were having too much fun, they didn't watch how much they were drinking and had one cup too many. By the time he returned to the Shindai pavilion, he was about ready to pass out from intoxication. The favored singer stayed in Lu Xiaosong's room to look after him. In the middle of the night, Lu Xiaosong woke up feeling thirsty. He drank tea and was about to go back to sleep when he was inexplicably aroused by the sight of the beautiful woman next to him and the barely indiscernible scent on her. It is said that drunk people couldn't perform well in bed, but he couldn't restrain himself. He felt his masculinity surge and he vowed to regain his former glory. Until the scene in front of him gradually blurred, warmth flowed out of his nose. A plentiful amount of blood had spewed out, and then blood came flowing from out the corners of his mouth as well. Dr. Zhang is treating the third young master now, Banshee said, judging by his expression that the situation doesn't seem optimistic. Lin Qingyu laughed. It's a pity. A pity that he didn't get to see the blood spouting off Lu Xiaosong's 7 orifices. That probably would have been an even better sight to behold than Lang Shi's state just now. At this time, Dr. Zhang walked out from the inner room. Nanan Hao hurriedly said, "How is the situation?" Dr. Zhang closed his eyes and shook his head. No, no, Shang saw. Shang. Lang Shi let out a scream and fell to the ground. She had unexpectedly lost consciousness. Lu Nian Tao supported her to stay up. Choked with sobs, she called out, "Mother." Lu Wancheng turned his head and grabbed Lin Qingyu's sleeve, wiping non-existent tears. Oh my gosh, this guy is like so good at acting. "Third brother, my third brother, were you afraid that I would be too lonely when the time comes, so you went ahead to scout the way for me?" Lin Qingyu pulled his sleeve back somewhat disdainfully. "Cry into your own sleeve," Lu Wancheng whispered. "All right." Then he lifted his sleeve and hid his face. "The waters of the West Lake, my tears, my third brother." Nanan Hao's eyes were rimmed in red. "Doctor, is there really no other way?" Dr. Zhang sighed. I am of humble talent and shallow learning. I hope Master Hao can hold back his grief." Nanan Hao seemed to lose all strength. He involuntarily took a step back and slumped down onto the chair. Lin Qingyu has had just about his fill of watching this drama. He stepped forward and said, "Master Hao, would you allow me to have a try?" Lu Wancheng looked up. "Qingyu?" Nanan Hao then remembered that his daughter-in-law came from a family of famous doctors. Although he no longer had any hope, he decided to treat a dead horse as though it were alive and waved his hand for Lin Qingyu to enter. Seeing Lin Qingyu approach Lu Xiaosong, Lu Niantao instinctively stood in his way. Lin Qingyu looked at her calmly. Lu Niantao bit her lip and finally stepped aside. Lu Xiaosong, lying on the bed, was already nearing his end. He was at his last gasp. He and Lu Wan Cheng were half brothers, sharing the same father after all, and so there was a faint similarity in their appearances. However, even when Lu Wan Cheng was critically ill and looked beyond haggard, he still looked a whole lot better than Lu Shaosong did now. Lin Chengyu pried open Lu Xiaosong's eyelids and took a look. He then examined his pulse for him and said calmly, "His life can be preserved." Nanan Hao's eyes lit up. "Is this true?" Lin Chengyu added. "However, I am afraid he will no longer be able to sire any children in the future." It was like Nanan Hao was struck by lightning and he said, voice trembling, "What do you mean he won't be able to sire any children?" "In short, it's withered to the point that he wouldn't even need to be castrated if he were to be sent to the palace to be a eunuch," Lin Chengyu said. "Master Hao, should I still save him?" Lu Nian Tao said anxiously, "Of course we must save him. Preserve his life first." Nanan Hao closed his eyes and heaved a sigh. Save him. After some tossing about, the sky was almost bright. When Lin Chengyu finished applying the acupuncture treatment for Lu Xiaosong, he saw that Lu Wancheng was still waiting for him, sitting in a wheelchair, covered with a thin blanket. He'd waited so long, he was becoming sleepy, and he had started to nod off. Xingyu held up his cheek and said, "Let's go." Lu Wancheng rubbed his eyes. "You're done?" Mm. Seeing the layer of sweat on Lin Chingyu's forehead, Lu Wancheng asked, "Why did you decide to save him?" "I changed my mind." Lin Chingyu looked cold. "It's more interesting to watch him live out his life lower than a pig than just watch him die." Lu Wancheng smiled and said, "Indeed." Disasters befell the Nananhao mansion one after another. In just a few days, the grey hair began to appear on Nananhao's temples. He refused to look at Lu Shaosong, treating it as though he didn't have a son. He didn't have this son. Once Langshi regained consciousness, hearing that her son had become impotent, her extreme anger drove her to sickness, and she couldn't even get out of bed. Lu Shaosong himself then spent all his time courting death. He refused to take his medicine, and his spirit and body collapsed. Only one, Lu Nian Tao, remained to support and take care of her mother and her brother. Lu Wancheng finished eating the melon and said, "Qingyu is livening up medicine of yours." "Oh, Qingyu, this livening up medicine of yours is quite powerful." That day, Lu Shaosong was already that drunk, but you were still able to make him get it up. "You are truly worthy of admiration," Lin Qingyu said. He would have been fine if he hadn't drank alcohol. The alcohol actually stirred up the medicine's properties in his body. Lu Wancheng asked, "Did you formulate this medicine yourself?" "Mm." "Then you know it best," Lu Wancheng then said, as though throwing in out their offhand. "Before, did you ever?" Lin Qingyu looked at him. "What do you want to ask?" "Well, I heard that the young master of most big families come of age at around 15 or 16. They then might have a maid serving them in their room. You like girls, right? Then have you, Lu Wancheng got halfway through before he choked. He waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. Forget I said anything." Lu Wancheng looked so conflicted. Lin Qingyu wanted to laugh. "No." The corners of Lu Wancheng's lips curved. "No? My father only has my mother, and I think that's a very good thing. So I don't want some random person in my room." Lu Wancheng was filled with deep veneration. Patting Lin Chingyu's shoulder, he said, "Your thinking is very ahead of the times. Ah, Shangdi, keep that up and your future will be promising." Lin Chingyu asked, "What about you?" "Me? Look at my body. How could I possibly have?" Lin Chingyu nodded, his expression a little uneasy. "Don't be shy, Chingyu. It's normal for boys to discuss this kind of a thing." Lu Wancheng smiled. "Oh, pitiful me. I'm going to die a virgin." Lin Chingyu, dot dot dot. "Say, how do you think it feels?" Lu Wancheng was a little curious. "Why are they all so into it? Isn't it tiring?" Lin Chingyu was indifferent. "You ask me. Who do I ask?" "Then, do you want to try?" "What? Oh, I don't know." I remember them not doing anything, but yeah. See? Two, uh, what do you call? Two brothers, two bosom brothers, just talking about, you know, how sex feels. Totally normal. Gosh. Lin Chingyu interrupted him, voice cold. "No, I don't. No, I don't. Get out of here." Nanan Hao has strictly forbidden publicizing their family scandals. Nevertheless, there was no wall that didn't leak air, and no news of Liu Xiaosong's great achievements was leaked. It became the topic of idle conversation over tea by the wealthy in the capital. Some people sighed and others regarded it with amusement. In court, Nananhao got wind when he wanted wind and rain when he wanted rain. Who would have thought that his name would be in such who would have thought that his home would be in such turmoil? Now he couldn't even leave descendants. 100 years in the future, he would be left scratching his head as to whom to leave his vast family fortune to. When the Lu clan's branch final, when the Lu clan's branch family learnt of this, they began to get ideas. According to the ancestral rules of the family, if the Nananhao line was broken, he would have to adopt a son from the branch family. Nananhao began to receive many letters from Linan, and this made him furious. His two sons weren't dead yet, and he himself wasn't dead yet. These relatives of his simply couldn't wait to declare him free of any descendants. After his fit of anger, Nananhao called Panshi. "There is something that should have originally been Langshi's to handle, but you yourself know very well her current situation. She is now no longer fit to handle anything." Once Panshi got the order from Master Hao, she hesitated for a long time and delayed for a few days before seeking out Lin Chingyu. First, she mentioned that Liu clan's branch family coming to the capital nominally to pay respects to their elders during the approaching Mid-Autumn festival. What they were actually coming for, anyone with a discerning eye could already tell. This time, the ones coming to the capital in Master Hao's elder brother's family. It is said that they will be bringing a lot of people. The mansion during this year's Mid-Autumn festival will probably be very lively. Lin Chingyu said, "You can handle the matters of providing for the guests and celebrating the holiday on your own. There is no need for you to ask me." Master Hao said the same thing. Panshi carefully observed his words and expressions. He said that he no longer cared about anything save for leaving an heir for the Lu family. Lin Chingyu raised his eyebrows. Panshi felt that his bearing was a bit smaller to that of young Master Hao. Sure enough, husband and wife who spent time together began to look more and more similar over time. Lin Chingyu's eyes were filled with pondering. "So, you're here to ask me for medicine to help you conceive?" Panshi was startled. Then she immediately blushed. Shaojan has misunderstood. Lin Qingyu was unconcerned about such matters. What's the matter? You are only in your early 30s and Master Hao is only in his 40s. If you take good care of your body, it's not difficult to have children. Pan Shi finally couldn't help it and blurted out. Shaojan, what the master meant is that since the eldest young master's body is much better now, he may be able to take a concubine. What? A concubine? Lin Qingyu was a bit startled. Then he scoffed coldly. Forgive me for speaking frankly, but rather than counting on him, it would be better to have Master Hao put in the effort himself and give him more younger brothers and sisters. Lol. Obviously, like Archinir doesn't know, but he's like, how dare you? I'm still alive and you're getting my husband a concubine? Ha! I did not nurse him to health for this nonsense. Gosh.